On to the more somber news.
Yes.
We recorded last week's podcast, which came out on Tuesday, prior to the events in Orlando.
Yes, we recorded on Friday, as per usual.
Which is why we didn't mention anything about it last week. Obviously, the standard thoughts and prayers to the family and the victims. And
Absolutely.
Nobody should have to be gunned down. But unfortunately, it seems to happen a lot.
Yes, unfortunately.
And I think my overwhelming reaction in the past, essentially, week here, is that we need to have a very serious conversation about the term radical Islamic terrorism as opposed to Islam.
Yes.
Just in general.
Right.
So, for people who don't know, there's 1.6 million... billion.
With a B.
Sorry.
With
billion
a B.
Muslims in this world.
Yeah.
And I think I saw a calculation, if I remember correctly, that the amount that could be considered radical is 0.0006% of 1.6 billion.
It's about 160,000.
Yeah.
100,000 of which are in the areas including of ISIS. And we're including civilians who may or may not actually ascribe to the values of ISIS. But they live in the ISIS-controlled area, so we throw them in there. But Wahhabism and Islamic State and all of those people are all included. And it's a very, very small minority.
Right.
And if you're looking at people who want to discriminate and, in a lot of ways, injure gay people... Islam don't have a monopoly on that.
Yeah.
Christianity done a pretty good job of that already.
Well,
all the major religions really have.
2 points. First, I would be tarred and feathered and dragged out of town by my feet if, take Dylan Roof, went into a black church, shot up a bunch of people.
Yeah.
If I said, you know what the problem is? The Christians. Because these KKK people are, taking, they're just poisoning the rest of the religion.
Yeah.
If you look at the percentage of Christians who are members of the KKK, it might be higher than 0.0006%.
In fact, I saw an infographic that said that what we might consider radical Christianity, including radical Catholics, is a higher percentage than what we could classify as radical Islam.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you would look at me make a post about, and obviously I wouldn't because I'm not trying to minimize what's going on. I'm using it as an example. But if I went out and said something about Christianity in the same respect, you all would look at me like I'm a crazy person and, a pariah and the worst person ever in the history of the world. Yet we seem to do it without any kind of flinching mechanism with Islam. And it's
easy.
kind of, it's really bothering me at this point.
Yeah.
Because the more, let's take a history lesson of Germany. Part of the reason the Nazis rose and, World War II happened was because people treated Germany like shit after World War I and punished them real hard, and everybody... It allowed this culture to grow. When you are America and you spend all your time saying, let's ban all Muslims, regardless of how into ISIS they are, what varying degree of ISIS sympathizer they are, you are... essentially emboldening people who are on the fringe to get involved.
Yeah.
You are making the people who are comme ci, comme ça about ISIS think, well, the West is terrible. They're out to get us all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. I'm not involved in any of this nonsense.
But
they're
village.
treating me like, drones are coming by and killing my family. You're creating more terrorists by being these people. So stop. Now, crazy people are going to happen all the time, no matter what. It's a horrible, horrible fact of life. I would be fine if you are of the mind that banning assault rifles is the way to curb crazy people from doing more damage than they would do if they only had allowed a pocket knife or something like that.
Spoiler alert, it's not. But okay, good. That's just
I'm just saying, I don't necessarily see the point of somebody who was on the FBI watch list at various times being able to purchase a high caliber assault rifle.
Yeah.
But that's sort of, too late for that conversation.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. It's nothing is absolutist. And we are trying to make it absolutist. So the day, first of all, Donald Trump wins again with his ignorance, because his first tweet after the news of Orlando is, thank you for
the congratulations on being right about the Muslim thing.
Good job, Donald. Thanks.
Quote unquote Muslim thing.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. So we had from the, this is, and I told you this before,
maybe we should just go find pictures of Muslims being good, compassionate people.
Yeah.
And just hashtag Muslim things and send it to Trump.
Okay. Listen, Alliance, we are putting a call out to you right now. Find pictures of Muslims doing kind things and hashtag them Muslim things and send them to Trump.
What would be great is if you saw a Muslim man mowing the lawn for an elderly neighbor who can't do it. Take a picture of that and then just hashtag Muslim things at real Donald Trump.
At real Donald J. Trump.
Real Donald J. Trump.
And, or how about this? Men and women who cannot eat or even drink water between sunup and sundown, standing out in the hot sun to hand out food and water to other people who are donating blood.
Yeah.
In Orlando.
Right.
It boggles my mind. So here's was my point. This is the perfect political event for both parties. Because on the Democratic side, the moment that it was over and the moment that we had said our thoughts and prayers and had our moment of silence.
Which lasted about, honest to God, 30 minutes.
It felt that way. It felt like Sunday, by the time the Sunday morning shows were over, we were jumping into the political action of it. And the Democrats were screaming, this is why we can't have these guns. These guns are dangerous. We need to ban these guns. Ban guns. Ban. And the Republicans were saying, here again's the Muslim problem. And here, if we didn't let all these Muslims in, it wouldn't be an issue.
Right.
Perfect. It's the perfect thing for, and listen, it's been well published. I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's either of these things. I think, though, that the media has the ability to control the narrative.
Well, here's one for you, that there's no conspiracy involved.
Mm-hmm.
Take out Orlando.
Yeah.
Take out San Bernardino.
Mm-hmm.
Time frame of now, from between 9/11 and now. How many other attacks can you really pinpoint?
Well, it depends. If you're using the definition that crazy people use for mass shootings, there have been 188 per year.
Well, yeah, but that's using the logic that some of these things count for Obama and some of them don't count for Reagan. And
well, no, if I shoot,
are you talking about that infographic where it was just the Obama mass shooting thing is way the hell?
Well, no,
20 for Bush, and
it's that they redefined mass shooting to include more than two people.
Yeah,
but that includes if I shoot my wife and her boyfriend that she's cheating on me with, and myself. This is a mass shooting,
right?
I don't count that as a mass shooting.
Yeah,
but nonetheless, there is violence in our country. We have an increasingly big problem with violence. Absolutely. We have a problem with easy access to guns. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you can't, it's not as easy as saying ban the guns or ban the Muslims. Do we need to take better actions about keeping out radical Islamic terrorists? Yes. Do we need to do a better job about keeping out radical Christian terrorists? Yes. Radicals altogether. Radical atheist.
I'm trying to figure out right now. I don't know what the percentage is.
Yeah.
But do you think there's more people in the Westboro Baptist Church who live in Kansas?
Mm-hmm.
That's where they're based, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Percentage of Westboro Baptist Church members to Christians in Kansas as opposed to ISIS or, radical Islam to Muslims worldwide.
It depends how small the percentage is, but
it's a compelling
There are several hundred members of the Westboro Baptist Church. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, arguably, you could say it makes, at least in that part of Kansas, it makes up a big portion of the Christians. Yeah. And they're allowed to exist. So is the KKK. And neo-Nazi groups, all of which are very much Christian-based.
But I'm saying, like, we look at Westboro and we say, you know, like, oh, they're just crazy loons or whatever.
Yeah.
And we are able to separate that from Christianity, but we are not able to separate, for whatever reason, as a people right now, we are not able to separate
because Christianity is here.
Good people from bad people.
This is our religion, so it's easy for us to say this is not what I believe.
But it's not our. It's the most populous religion in the country.
Yes.
But it's not. There is no religion. There is no. That's part of the deal. If you're going to spend as much time as you are, not you specifically, but I'm just saying people in general, if you're going to spend as much time as you are defending the Second Amendment, then I would also think that it's quite hypocritical if you're going to say ban all Muslims from coming in because they're first. Yeah, first.
But here's the thing: that is the juxtaposing that argument, which is
founding fathers had it right, except for the First Amendment with this Muslim shit.
But if you're on the other side of the argument, you're saying that we should have the right to protest, we should have the right to free speech and free press, and you should be free from searches and seizures, and you shouldn't have bail that's too much. But those guns, they didn't really know what they were talking about with those guns,
right?
And my shutdown of arguments that has actually worked to shut down arguments has been like there's been this thing going around with George Washington and saying for fuck's sake. We were talking about musket balls, not shooting 13.3 rounds per minute. And my response to that is, for fuck's sake, we were talking about single print papers and saddlebags, not the internet and horseless carriages.
Yeah.
Either we have to accept as a culture that the Constitution is a living document and it's meant to be read in the culture in which we live, or it doesn't. And if that's the case, then great. The fact that you are driving a car, that the Fourth Amendment does not apply to that, and you are not safe from searches and seizures in there. And if you say shitty stuff on the internet, it's not protected by the First Amendment, because there is no way the founders could have ever envisioned an electronic web of computers talking to each other where we can post information.
Maybe Ben Franklin, but he was ahead of the time.
He could have. I mean, I think he could have envisioned us being able to talk to each other easier, but that is a concept that, again, there is the idea of like aliens landing and us talking to them. That's the same thing of those people being put in today and Ben Franklin being like, what is with all these crazy people talking to themselves? Oh no, they're talking on the phone to other people. On the what? They have a device in their hand that has access to all the information in the history of mankind and also allows them to communicate with anyone on the planet, so long as they have a 11-digit number.
Right.
The particular identified 11-digit number of another person. And we can get more than one 11-digit number if we really want to.
10.
11 with an international code.
Oh, okay.
And so, on the planet. You know.
Yeah.
So, can you imagine explaining to a founding father that this device that I have in my hand not only accesses all the information ever to a guy who literally wrote things.
Yeah.
Like, was making shit up. But, you know, this has... You remember all that stuff that got burned in Alexandria? They found about a bunch of stuff. Do you want to read some of it? You know, like, you know that some of those Renaissance guys that you really liked and you used? Well, we can pull up some of that stuff right now if you want. And you know that letter that you wrote to that guy in 1774? I can actually pull up a copy of that. And I saw that you had 3 drafts of it. I have all 3 drafts. Which one do you want to look through? No ability.
Yeah.
No ability to understand that. So either the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply to this device, and neither does the First, or it does. And I argue that it should. It's a living document. But in that case, then the idea of the Second Amendment was parity between the government and civilians.
Well,
go ahead.
No, I'm saying that the entire purpose of the Second Amendment is, you know, obviously written in long ago terms, well-regulated militia.
No.
What?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hold on. Part of the reason why the Second Amendment has held on for so long is because the idea that you should be able to defend yourself against a tyrannical force.
Yes.
That comes against you, whether it be foreign or abroad, or home or abroad. Mm-hmm. You know, we had a civil war in this country. There's opportunities where some people would have to defend themselves.
Yeah.
If Donald Trump wins the presidency, there might be another civil war.
Vote Trump 2016.
At which point, I may invest in a gun, despite the fact that I'm far more likely to hurt myself than I am to hurt others.
Or someone you love.
Yeah.
Maybe not yourself. Maybe someone you love. Yeah. No, but so it's all about construction. We can get into a construction argument that says that the first clause of the Second Amendment says...
Because God knows I would just leave the gun on top of the chair, like...
knock it over.
Tossing my shorts on there at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the AR-15's there.
So the Second Amendment says, a well-regulated militia being key to a free state, comma, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. These are two separate clauses. They exist separately of the other. One is not dependent on the other. They're not dependent phrases. They are independent phrases. That all aside, it doesn't matter. Let's even say, in their day, the militia was every able-bodied man.
Yeah.
When we think of the Minutemen, you think of like some guys with insignias? No. Literally, they rode town to town and said...
Picked up farmers.
If you've got a musket... grab whatever ammo you have and get out to Lexington and Concord. That's what we're doing. The guys who confronted the British on all of these battlefields up and until the Continental Army was organized were just farmers. Just regular old folk.
Oh, when the Battle of Baltimore.
Yeah.
Fort McHenry. The first stage of that
Point?
was the Eastern Shore with just a bunch of farmers shooting at the British Navy.
Hell
the greatest navy the world had ever seen was being shot at by... people who poop farm.
I don't want to say they poop farm, but there's, yes.
Well, I don't know what else they could possibly be doing because every time I go down there, it smells like poop. It smells, reeks of shit.
Okay, but nonetheless, when they landed at North Point, the first group of people who met them at North Point were militia.
Yeah.
Which were the people of the area who got their arms and held them off long enough for some of the actual organized reinforcements to arrive.
And listen, I'm not pro-gun. I'm not a gun owner. I don't necessarily want a gun. And I think that there's a very real middle ground where where we can essentially come together. Part of the problem is that the NRA, I think the NRA learned a lot from like cigarette smokers. Honestly.
Oh yeah, we've had this talk before.
Yeah, because like there was a time where you could smoke anywhere you wanted on planes and hospitals, blah, 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 blah.
Give a little bit.
Yeah, and then eventually people were like, listen, you can't smoke in the hospital. There's sick people here. It's like, all right.
Fair enough. Okay.
I understand.
Sure.
I understand the point. I'll help you out by going to the smokers lounge at the end of the hall.
Right.
And then it's like, listen, we can't have the smokers lounge anymore. It's still causing a problem.
Go to the lobby.
I'll go to the lobby.
Yeah.
I'll get away from all the patients.
Well, the sick people are waiting in the lobby to get out.
So you're going to have to go outside.
Okay.
All right, I'll go outside. Listen, there's people who are coming in where you're standing and smoking your cigarette. You're going to have to go off the property.
Right.
All right, I'll go on the sidewalk 100 yards away. Listen, the sidewalk is part of the hospital property. We're going to have to ask you to go a little bit further across the street.
Yeah.
Something tells me that the NRA sort of learned from these types of lessons that happened
100%.
With people who are quote-unquote pariahs.
Yeah.
At least seen in this sort of sense. And said...
no.
Yeah.
Give none.
Don't give anything.
Draw no quarter.
Yeah. Don't...
Because they know they will never eliminate
I don't want to have background checks for the criminally insane. I don't want this. I don't want that.
Because they know you will never eliminate them completely. So if they fight everything... and you make it absolutist, you make it all or nothing, you will always keep all. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's a dumb lesson. It's a smart lesson to learn. Give no quarter. We give nothing. But it makes you look like a crazy person.
Yeah.
And it makes you put me on the same side as those fucking people.
Right.
And that's what pisses me off.
Right.
Because then when I say things like, well, the amendment is there for a reason, and I accept all of the amendments. In my mind, you can't pick and choose the one you like. We have to acknowledge all of them, and then you put me in the group with that crazy people.
Right.
There's
no way to defend individual aspects of gun ownership without eventually, like, if the normal everyday citizen. I imagine if there was one person who was decided to judge, just average Joe American, was asked to judge gun ownership. And, like, one guy comes in and he's like, I just have a handgun in case anybody breaks in. All right, well, I think you should be allowed to have it for self-defense. Yeah. You know, you seem like a perfectly reasonable... That's okay. Keep your gun. Yeah. Next person comes up and it's like, you know, I think the government's going to come get us. All right, well, I don't know how I feel about that, but certainly within your rights, so... Right. Go ahead. Take your gun. Go in God. And then the other person who's like, I want to shoot a school. I'm like, well, no. Okay. You're done. You're out. I think generally speaking, there's people who are saying, like, you know, like, all right, self-defense is a perfectly reasonable reason to have a gun. You know, the militia argument in modern day terms is also part of it. But we need to have rules about people who are on terrorist watch lists or people who have spent time in some sort of asylum or any sort of...
I have a proposal for you. Okay. Now, at one point on this podcast, in a controversial episode, I'm sure, I proposed a solution to the abortion problem. Because although I am pro-choice, I, like most people, don't like abortion. I wish that we could have 0 abortions in this country. And I said, here's how you get 0 abortions. You make contraceptives widely available and free to everyone and anyone who wants them. And then you cut out programs that support untoward pregnancies. And you encourage people to be educated and to know. You encourage education programs and you encourage free contraceptives and you make healthcare widely easily available.
By untoward pregnancies, are you talking about like 2 16-year-olds who did it and now one of them's pregnant? And...
No, because I think that can be defeated by education and contraceptives. Mm-hmm. Because when you have nothing but abstinence only, and people don't know what condoms are or what birth control is, that's when 2 16-year-olds get pregnant. Yeah. What I'm talking about is maybe people who are like, oh, what's the big deal? I can have another baby because somebody else is going to pay for it. That kind of stuff. And not saying that anybody does that, but, you know, let's just say some people do that. So, you know, so we make it a disadvantageous thing for someone to just live off the government dole and to continue to have children. And we make education a priority so that young people stop having kids. And you know, we're going to see that number of abortions go way down. Way down. So, here's my proposal for guns. Number 1, there must be testing. There absolutely must be a process. Maryland has a really good process. We have a handgun qualifying. We have testing that must be done. You have to go sit through a class. You have to go get fingerprinted. You have to do a whole bunch of things. I dig that. I think Maryland is right basically in the middle of where we need to be. Some states do too much. A lot of states do too little. But I think Maryland's in the middle. Let's do that. Let's say that if you have ever been institutionalized, maybe you get a little more scrutiny. And I'm not going to say it eliminates you forever, because I think that also keeps people who need mental health care from going to get mental health care. Because then they're like, well, if I go, then I'm going to get off the list, and I'll never be able to own again. And now the crazy that could have been controlled is just out of control. So we make it a higher scrutiny level, but not necessarily a elimination. Yeah. If you want to add watch lists, great. I'm with you. But somebody's got to have oversight over those fucking watch list. Because if I piss off a girl who happens to work at DHS, I don't want her putting me on a motherfucking watch list that gets my rights taken away. Right. Let's also talk about how criminal records can eliminate you from gun ownership when it really shouldn't. There are some laws that if you get convicted of a gun crime, even if it's not a violent gun crime, you lose your rights. All of that stuff. So people, instead of reporting things, it causes people to hide. So if we eliminate all those things and we say testing, and you have to show proficiency. You want to buy an AR-15, you need to show that you can shoot a semi-automatic weapon, a semi-automatic assault rifle well. Yeah. Once you prove that you can shoot it well and that you're responsible enough to own it, you can have whatever you want.
So, sort of like the advanced driver's license test that we had talked about, like the...
Yes.
Like, if you can go pass the test while on your phone the entire time, then you have the right to do it all the time.
Now, and if you can't handle an AR-15...
Yeah, like if you go in there to the testing facility and it's just like... And you're like, can't control it,
then you don't get one.
Yeah.
And it's just that easy. And it's just like, and you know what? If you can't drive a goddamn 18-wheeler, you don't get to drive one. There are levels of licenses that show proficiency. Do the same kind of thing. And you do testing, and much like a CDL, you have to go in and retest every so often. We have to do a mental health evaluation to make sure that you haven't gone off the deep end in the meantime.
Right.
And I am not opposed to eliminating assault weapons. That's right. You heard me say I am not opposed to eliminating the sale of assault weapons. This is my caveat. If we don't have access to them as citizens, the police should not have access to them in law enforcement. So you want to take away my right to have an AR-15 or Sig Sauer, MK556 that the guy used to shoot up the club. Great. I'm okay with giving that up. If I know that the police officer is going to come possibly oppress me, and let's be honest, in America in 2016, most likely oppress me, shoot me in a hallway when I got a pellet gun in my room, that kind of thing, with one that says you're fucked on the side of it.
Same gun, right?
Same gun.
Yeah.
No. What they claimed the guy had an AR-15. What the officer had was an M16 because it was of the military variety.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's not true. No, it was an AR-15 because he bought it himself.
Yeah.
And that's
and then
what
had
he had.
The
You're fucked
yeah.
inscribed on it. Yeah. So if the police don't have access to that weapon, I'm fine with not needing that weapon myself. Now, not a lot of gun advocates are going to go that far, and I can tell you that that'll never get passed. But if you're asking me, that's what I'm fine with. I want parity with law enforcement.
Yeah.
So if you are allowed to have it in law enforcement, I should be allowed to have it as a citizen. And don't bring some bullshit about SWAT should be able to have it. Great. If SWAT can have it, I can have it. As long as I show proficiency and as long as I'm tested and licensed and I have all the ability to have it. I am totally fine with restrictions on constitutional rights. There are restrictions out there. You don't get to claim that you're just any religion. There is now a test through the IRS, of all people, that says whether or not you're a qualified religion. Freedom of speech is limited. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. The right to protest is limited. In a lot of places, there are free speech zones where you can protest anytime. There are other places where it has to be licensed and you have to get a permit and all that kind of stuff.
Right, because you can't just march down the street.
Right.
Randomly on Pratt, just like.
Can't just just block traffic. But you can go down the sidewalks as much as you want, as long as you are not stopping traffic from passing. That's it. I am fine with those kind of conditions. And that, when you make me out to be like these people who are saying nothing at all, just because I think it's okay that I like the Second Amendment and I think that we should embrace it, you're doing more disservice. Because when you toss me in with them, you're pushing me their direction. Because when you do that, what I hear is, I don't want you to have any guns.
Well, going back to the argument I was bringing up about, taking the far element of, in that case, a religion.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's people who are, never ever take my guns, no matter what. I should be allowed to have, rocket propelled grenades and whatever I want. Anything I can possibly buy, I should be allowed to have. There's people who are like absolutely no guns ever.
Right.
Every single person gets their guns taken away. And then there's people who fall in spectrums of the middle. And I feel like somewhere in the middle is the right answer to this. But probably, as hard as it is to, I mean, any single time there's a mass shooting, it becomes a conversation about gun rights, which is not the best time to have that conversation because everybody's...
John Oliver's point about elections.
Everybody's really fired up about it.
We can't change the rules of the game in the middle.
Yeah.
We need to wait until everyone's got cooler heads. Because again, when I hear people start talking about taking guns, the rational part of my brain doesn't work. I start reacting, and that's what we don't want to do.
Yeah, the id takes over.
Exactly. Don't take my guns. And when I start, I realize that on Twitter, I start moving a little bit to the right, and I'm like, okay, this is not who I am. I'm not this guy who's arguing for absolute rights, and I have to come back. But you push me that direction when people make that argument. Don't do that. Let's be rational people. And the same thing with immigration. I am not saying just let everybody in. And I was never saying that about the people who are
Syrian refugees
fleeing from war. I'm not saying let's just open the doors and let everybody in. I've always been, whether they're from Mexico or Syria or Canada for that matter, let's make them go through a test. Let's do what they did in Ellis Island, where they stuck you on a place. Have you ever done the Statue of Liberty tour?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they had the island where you'd come in, they'd stick you here, Make sure you don't have any diseases, you don't have a criminal record, all of that stuff. And then once you pass everything you need to pass, they let you in.
Yeah.
I'm totally for that. I hate quotas because I hate the idea that we pick 20,000 people and we're like, hey, you win. Come on in.
Right.
But
you won the lottery.
The green card lottery. Yeah. I hate that idea. But by the way, if you take your citizenship lightly, if you don't go vote, if you don't do jury duty, if you don't do if you don't know your constitutional rights, just know that there are people in other countries who year after year enter their name into a green card lottery to come here.
Yeah.
Because they want a taste of what you were shit out into this world into.
Yeah.
You were lucky enough to be born into these imaginary borders and you get all of these lovely rights. And there are people that would beg, borrow, and steal in order to get that right. So fucking appreciate it, for Christ's sake. But moderation in all things.
Now, the second part of what the story was about, the gay rights issue,
right,
associated here, and I've thought about it. I've put myself in this sort of position, and thought about it. The number of people who have been outed by this, they're dead and out now.
Yeah,
like people didn't, family members didn't know they were gay, and now not only is your son dead, but he was gay as well, and it's a lot of I mean, I absolutely understand why people aren't just out, because there's still, obviously there's a stigma against it. Obviously there's profound psychological things that happen when people hear it, but I think about something that you did, or think about the if all your walls disappeared kind of thing, like you wouldn't want to see people, you wouldn't want people to see you at your, I don't want to say worst, but I mean, like, there's something,
your deepest secret.
Yeah, you don't want it, somewhere deep inside you there's a secret you don't want people to know.
Yeah.
And if that came out, if you were dead and that came out at the same exact time, then you would feel pretty terrible.
Yeah.
And if you can't visualize that, then I don't know what I can say to you to make you understand. Like,
yeah,
whatever the one thing is that you don't want everybody to know, everybody knew it all of a sudden
after you died.
Yeah. And now that's the last thought they have of you.
Yeah.
Is that you whatever, collected vintage Barbies. Like,
And the fact that, I mean, it says so much about our society, too. Just that people feel the need to still hide. When I say vote for Trump in 2016, these are all the issues I point. Because we are not meant for this to long as a species.
Yeah.
Just the way that we treat other members of the species, number one, of our country, of our families. I can't wrap my head around it. And I wish that I could just give everyone... Life would be easier if we were all robots and we could just, like, hit the program button and say, so this is how I feel. And this seems pretty logical to me. And I'm a pretty center-of-the-road guy. So everyone should just feel the same way I feel. You're gay? Good.
Yeah.
Enjoy being gay. I'm not gay. I have no interest. If you do, great. Go live your life and be happy. And the idea that there are people who... Can you imagine... You and Rachel, not too much PDA, but there's some PDA. You guys have an affinity for one another, and you show it. Can you imagine living your life and not being able to show that?
Oh, yeah. Like,
just going through absolute horror of, one, somebody finding out and telling people that are important to you. Or two, you're risking your life just for being who you are.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean,
the worst thing I read... And I think you shared this, was the hardest part for the people who were in the club in the aftermath, investigating and like redoing it, and having to block out the sound of hundreds of cell phones ringing and ringing and ringing of friends, family members who were trying to figure out where their whoever they were trying to reach was, and these phones just ringing and ringing, never going to be answered.
And if I ever have the opportunity to write that into a scene, that will be the blackout scene of an episode.
I'm saying
haunting.
If you saw that on television,
right,
it would hit you in a place where you, and now
it actually happened.
Yeah, it actually happened, and now I don't know. I just feel I know tensions are high, and I understand why. I just feel like there's a lot of people who are trying to jump to whatever extreme they feel they can take from the situation.
Yeah. And
I'm trying my best to I don't know, like, let's not blame all of Islam for a few nut bars. Let's not immediately jump to, like a lockdown scenario on guns. And how about we show a little bit of respect for people who have differentiating. Rob and I have different opinions on things.
Yes.
But I don't look at him and go like, "Ooh, God." Like there has to be a point where everyone is just accepting of the fact that people are going to be different, and it doesn't make them better or worse, but it's just the way it is. Now, I think we need to do a legit lightning round.
Well, I was going to say, just first of all, the key mantra of the Tao of Fuck It coming this year, everyone should look for that, the Tao of Fuck It coming in 2016, is live and let live. Just, if it doesn't affect you at all, who the fuck cares? Just let it go. Who you marry, any of that stuff doesn't matter. Just let it go. And if we all did that, we would all be happier. If I didn't stress about shit. We can have disagreements, we can discuss them, and we can end that with agree to disagree.
Think about it like this, just as a thought.
Yeah.
We're a society that loves to gossip and judge.
Yeah.
Maybe a friend of yours starts dating an unsavory woman. Like somebody is...
I'm going to say maybe a friend of yours starts dating an unsavory woman.
Are you an unsavory woman? Is that what
you're
saying?
I'm saying I date unsavory women.
Yeah, yes. Well. Say I knew this woman before you started dating her.
Yes.
And I knew she was not good.
Right.
She had qualities that were not...
And unsavory.
Yeah, not savory.
Yeah.
Like you gotta... I'm not going to get anywhere trying to force you not to do...
No.
Like, I can tell you...
Give me the heads up.
I can say, hey... I know about this gal.
Yeah.
She's this, and this. And then if you go like, well, I really like her. Yeah. All right, well, do it. I don't care.
I'll be here.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit back and watch.
If you're the type of person who like obsesses about it and just like constantly brings it up, or like, like if it was me and Rachel like about to go to bed and I'm just like, I can't believe that Rob's dating this harlot.
Miss Baker.
You're just gonna, it's the WebMD of...
Exactly right.
It's the WebMD of psychology. You're just gonna drive yourself crazy.
Just let it go,
if you obsess about it.
Just let it go. Let people live.
Yep.
All right. So we're doing a legit lightning round?
Yeah. Like the butterfly in the Amazon.
Exactly.
Like...
In Thailand.
Butterfly
in Thailand. Causing a tsunami.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You don't like weed. Fine. The guy in Kansas who's doing it in his basement is not hurting you.
No.
In any way whatsoever.
And in fact, if we legalize it, the likelihood that I get hurt because of weed in general goes way down. Because crime stops. Anyway, not important.
People don't have to buy it illegally.
Right.